much larger surface area. You know what I'm saying? Because the moment she realizes she has no choice over, according to her body and her dress, she begins to fight back. She wants to feel she's in control. And if you let her rush to the shop and then reason with her that you are dressed the way you dress, then she begins to listen. When she realizes that people judge her after how she dresses, she begins to listen to you. Now, we are in a very cold season here in Kenya. It is very possible you find a child arguing with you that they don't want to carry a jacket on the way out. She's in the house and it's warm, and she wants to show off her thighs. Her body is telling her it's hot in here. She can't imagine how it's freezing cold out there. She can't visualize. So it is okay for you to suggest, let's put the jacket in the car. There is no shame in changing your mind with new information, especially meteorological information. It's okay. New data, new information can make you change your mind. But don't argue. Comes to their subjects when they're selecting. Don't fix the subject they're going to do. My daughter was selecting their subjects. They're now going to year 9 in September. She's in the AG system. We already knew what we wanted her to do. But we allowed her to take, and we reasoned with her. We arrived at the same conclusion, but she believes with all her heart she chose. And that's how it works. And let me tell you why. If you try to force those subjects, if you try to live your dream career through her, because there's a course you wanted to pursue and you didn't qualify, and now she's the victim of the goals you missed, what is going to happen, number one, she's likely to struggle in her university studies. But even if she completes her studies, she's likely to be in a career she's not excited about. Why should you do that? What you should do as a parent is to discuss why people choose certain careers. For example, one reason is our own performance. Our performances do not cheat. If you've been getting a D in maths and you choose finance, you're likely to struggle the rest of your career life. The second thing we check is the market. What is available in our current market? Number 3, we check the market trends. If I focus 5 years from now, what are the trends? Number 4, the resources at home. They can't be ignored. She may want to do piloting, but you don't have 3 million to fly her to South Africa. And you need to be very open and transparent. She's in high school. She should understand the resources at home. Number 5, and the most important, her passions and interests, because only then will she pursue something without struggle. Share such things, but don't coerce a career direction. Just guide. Even matter sexuality. The moment you tell a boy, no girls in this house, or you tell your daughter, I don't want any boy here, then I guarantee you, there are other boys outside your house. And that's not the only place where they can sleep. But the moment you let her know, that once you sleep with that boy, you already introduce him to adultery and tell him it's all right to be involved in affairs. Even if you get married, he will still be involved in affairs. When you begin to reason with her, go beyond what the teachers have done. Most teachers just tell them the dangers. And I'm telling you as a parent, share with them the benefits of waiting. When they learn that, then they become cooperative and they support you. Don't even force them about who they are going to marry. Many people around the world force children about which religion. That's number 1. Number 2, what race? And number 3, what tribe? Number 4, what education level? And number 5, can I see his bank statements? And then we can discuss about marriage. You know, from a biblical perspective, you should never coerce religion. God puts choices before us and the consequences of those choices. Let me give a suggestion to the men in our midst. Are there fathers in our midst?
Yes.
I want to speak to the fathers now. I suggest this to every father. When your daughter is willing to get out of your cage to the free world, take her out for a mini date. Look at her eye and tell her words like this. I don't care whether that man puts elbows on the dining table or whether he doesn't know how to use a fork and knives. As long as when you're dining, he fixates his eyes on you and cannot stop staring at you. I don't care whether he can't play a bit of golf with me, as long as he can play with the children you're going to give him and become a good priest and role model to those children. I don't care that he cannot follow his wallet, as long as he can follow his heart, and it will always lead him back to you. I don't care whether he is 6 feet pack strong, as long as he's going to allow you to bring out the strength in your heart. I don't even care the color of his skin, as long as he's going to paint the canvas of your lives with the brushstrokes of love and patience and kindness and integrity and tenderness. I don't even care who he's going to vote for in this election. As long as every single morning he will wake up and elect you into a place of honor in your house and a place of reverence in your heart. I don't even care the church which he attends, so long as he loves the Lord Jesus and recognizes every moment spent with you is sacred. At the end of the day, my daughter, if you stab or close such a man, if there is no other thing in common between me and him, I want you to know we still have the most important thing between us, you. You see, ladies and gentlemen, the overwhelming majority of men out there see your daughter as a beautiful face and a beautiful body to sleep with. That is why only you can call the inner beauty out of her, not other definitions given by a carnal world. Lesson number 5. Are we learning something? Children are experiential learners. Let me say to you all, children are experiential learners. They learn not to touch the stove by observing. So give them occasional leeways to experiment unless you honestly believe they're exposed to real danger. The natural thing with children, they'll climb on chairs, they'll climb on rooftop, they'll jump on your bed like a bouncy castle, they'll paint all the walls and change the colors of your house, the color of your seats. Some of them will even tear the seats with knives. They'll pick the kitchen knife and try to cut the orange the way they see the mother do it. They'll try to make fire. They'll try to burn papers with a magnifying lens. They'll try to steal the bicycle and go to school on a risky road when you're not seeing. They'll jump into the swimming pool when you're away. And as they grow up and become bigger, when you think they are innocent boys, they will drive your car and nobody knows that they are drivers except their peers. They'll try to play cassettes when you're away, anything. You see, some of you listening to me here, in them days, you used to compete fairly with monkeys climbing trees, but you cannot allow a child to climb a chair. Some of you listening to me here tonight, in them days, you used to swim faster than a crocodile in the river, but you can't allow your child in a safe kid pool to get in there. Some of you listening to me here tonight, you burn fingers trying to fix githeri at home, but you can't allow your 20-year-old to fix his breakfast. They keep yelling no. You see, a USLA research revealed that the average 1-year-old hears 400 times a day no, or you can't, or don't do it, which translates to 146,000 times a year. No, 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 no. Now let me educate you. Something that most of you do not know. The human brain does not have the capacity to process negative commands. For example, if you tell a child, don't spill the milk, because you want the milk to get from kitchen to the dining table, but you tell the child, don't spill the milk. For the brain to process that command, the child has to think about spilling the milk. And we tend to get what we focus on. And so the milk is spilled, followed by a loud voice, I told you not to spill the milk. So if you do not want them to spill the milk, do not even mention it. Tell them, carry the milk to the dining table. Then they focus on carrying the milk. You see, kids are used to seeing red lights, stop signs everywhere. Don't go, don't do, don't touch. The moment it is, don't touch wet paint, you want to test how wet is it. You see, prolonged red lights create red districts. How long do you want your child to be at the red lights? This life has enough inevitable stop signs. Don't add more stumbling blocks. Don't add more roadblocks. We already have more than enough. It is time for go signs. In Sense 101 Life Club, we're going to give them the green lights. How is this practical? Let me give you one or two illustrations. A child, you don't want your child to drown in the swimming pool. Rather than engaging in an argument, put on your swimming gear, get in there, and then they learn why we learn swimming from the shallow end. Now, fire is a bad master, and you don't want them to experiment when you're away. Get in the kitchen with them. Put on the fire as they see. Give them a chance to do it with a few mistakes. It's handleable and correctable when you're there. Why wait until they wreck your car? Take them to a driving school. Teach them to drive. It's safer for you, for them, and for the car. Does that make sense? Yes. You see, experiential learning is not a new concept. Life is a cycle. Before the formal classrooms that we have today, children watch their parents craft tools from flint, weave baskets from reeds. And experiential learning is now gaining a resurgence among educators and teachers alike. It is what we have adopted here in Sense 101 Life Club. It is the concept of learning through experience. Put it otherwise, acting and reflecting on what you've already acted is what is known as experiential learning. We learn best by observing. So rather than becoming a cheapskate in your house and telling children endlessly to use the tissue paper sparingly as though there's another thing the tissue paper can do, take her to where you work and let them appreciate it is hard-earned money. Expose them to what you do. Let them pay a price. What I'm telling you, we do it at home. My daughter has been involved with her mother going door-to-door marketing for our beauty shops. As I told you, some of the flyers you receive here, they're the ones who drew. And we make sure we pay them the same way we would have paid another designer. Then they begin feeling the impact of earning and upping the game, getting a nice skill and mastering the skill rather than wasting time on the laptop. And the Asian community in Kenya is very fond of doing that. Either in construction, they take their little children to the workshop. They play around the workshop. They begin seeing the tools. They begin listening to the father make a phone call to a client. You see, it's very hard to visualize what you can't see. It's very hard to imagine what you cannot see. Parents are the primary and first influence and strongest influence on their children. Learning by example is not the main means of influencing your child. It is the only means. Every single day you live, you are handing over life scripts to your child, which in all likelihood will be acted for the rest of their lives. So do not be bothered that your child is not a good listener. Be very concerned that they are watching your every move. They are talented in observing. Children keep on observing your every move. You see, last March, Marcia and I were invited, and I was speaking in Abadea's country club. So we went there, we were putting up there. One particular afternoon, we decided to take a walk in the conservancy. There was a nice tour guide. And this is not a drive, this is a walk in the national park. We asked him, do you have any animals? Which animals do you have in the conservancy? He said we have giraffes, zebras, different antelopes, warthogs. Then we asked him, do you have any cat in this national park? Well, we have some 2 leopards that are normally near that bush. And you want us to walk? Oh yes, I've done this severally. Just follow me. So 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. And we ended up walking. She was using her phone and she checked approximately 14,000 steps. Took quite some time. And in fact, the guy was so daring. He was telling us, look, the giraffes have just left. Look, let's follow. And remember last year, I think they hit someone dead. And then, and we are following them. But what surprised me is not what the tour guide was doing. What surprised me is my Mercy, who fears chameleon, was smiling all through. She did not fear those big animals. Let me ask you. Suppose the tour guide told us, you guys, this is the path, walk. After 10 steps, be careful. There are some leopards there. Do you think we would have taken the walk? No. The only reason we had this confidence, the guy told us he has been doing this for a long time. It's called a nature walk. Don't worry, we're going to do it. Regrettably, most parents are not tour guides. They are travel agents, pointing places they have never been. They are telling children, go there. They have never been to Malaysia, but they are booking your flight to Malaysia. You see, you say what you know. You preach what you know. But at the end of the day, you reproduce yourself. You produce your type. You produce your kind. Every single religion, and I like studying religion, they pointed us to places of righteousness, which was a good thing. Jesus never once pointed us to a place of righteousness. He never pointed us to a holy temple or to a new set of laws. He pointed us to himself. The only leader who pointed us to himself. And that is why the writer of Hebrews says, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. He's our role model. And one of his early apostles by the name Paul told his spiritual son Timothy, follow me as I follow Christ. Whatever things you've seen me do and say. In other words, I've lived such a life that I'm suggesting you can copy what I'm doing. I'm confident that I've set an example for you to set to others. This is the concept of mentorship. At the end of this meeting, don't tell them what I told you. Show them what I told you. As a parent, you should not be busy telling children what to do. You should be busy showing them what to do. In that city called Antioch, they never called themselves Christians. The city dwellers observed their mannerisms, their behaviors, their language, and they said, they talk like Christ. They walk like Christ. They relate like Christ. They are like Christ. They are Christ-like. They are Christians. That's where the term comes from. In the words of General Douglas MacArthur, perhaps one of the most popular generals in U.S. military history, a good general does not push his soldiers from behind. He leads them from in front. Some parishioners mentioned Francis of Assisi had asked him, preacher, how should we preach? He replied, preach all the time. If necessary, use words. You shouldn't be telling your child what to do. You should be leading them in what to do. They look up to you to know how to behave and how to speak. We can predict the behavior of a parent by just observing their children. I have 2 kids. And if they come here and you talk to them for 5 good minutes, you'll come to this conclusion. You are having a conversation with 2 little Tonya Jews. Let's go on. Number 6. Lesson number 6 and the last one. Are you there? Are you with me? Yes. You are a custodian to your child. You are a custodian to your child. We will continue advocating for deliberate, intentional parenting. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is God's grace. Don't play God. Pray God. You're just a mom. Don't kill that child in the name of fearless parenting. You're just a dad. a custodian of God's heritage, a guardian, a trusted steward. There are many times kids will do things you did not expect, which is not necessarily your fault. Teenage girls in particular will sometimes feel they are too short or too tall, too thin or too fat, too ugly, too something, and it's not necessarily anything you can do about it. See, there is a biological imperative that suggests to teenagers they are not attractive enough. Even when any single research shows the contrary, they are all good looking. This doesn't necessarily mean that you did not model, as a mother, good body image. They too have a personal responsibility on the outcome. The emphasis I'm trying to make here is this: you've got to do your very best and then surrender the rest to God. Don't kill yourself about what you did or did not if you followed the scripts. That said, admittedly, there are moments you're going to observe anomalous teenage behavior, extreme, belligerent behavior that are not normal in your child. I read a story, a true story of a young man who had frequent emotional outbursts. On his way to college, he looked at the father and said, "I hate you and I hope never to see you again." Later on the semester, a school counselor who was assigned to new students called the father and said, "Your son has been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome." As the father familiarized himself with that condition, he realized that it was consistent with the behavior that the son and the symptoms he had depicted all along. The father cried because had he known all along that the boy was suffering from physical and emotional imbalances, he wouldn't have consistently punished him had he did so. And he was wondering whether the heavily damaged relationship would ever recover again. Teenagers suffering from Asperger's syndrome frequently overdose in hormones and adrenaline, which in net effect lead to emotional imbalances. Of course, there's a question in your heart right now. Doc, then, how do I draw the line between a child with Asperger's syndrome and a child who is just misbehaving? Well, I'll tell you today, be an observant parent. Be there for them. And if you notice what he is doing, what she is doing, is not consistent with other teenagers, her peers, her classmates, they also complain about him or her, I strongly recommend look for professional advice. Go for a clinical psychological counselor. It will save both of you pain. If nonetheless, you realize that the behavior of your daughter is within the bounds of normal teen behavior, then I'll recommend the following 5-step procedure to remedy that behavior. Number 1, clarify what you want out of your child. Be clear with the outcomes. What are you looking for? Be very specific with what you're looking for. For example, you may say, I as a parent, I want my child to speak nicely to others, not rudely, even if she disagrees with what others have said or done. That's what I want to achieve. Step number 2. Describe the character gap to your daughter. And you're doing this in the light of what you expect of her, and be very specific. Let me give you an illustration. You may look at your girl and say, during dinner tonight, when we were discussing the bathing schedule, you said I did not know what I was doing and I was so lame. Wednesday last week, you called your brother a moron and that you're not going to be attending the Saturday game he likes, soccer, and he was the worst one on his team. I'm seeing a certain pattern with your language and your choice of words. You're describing the character gap in very specific ways. Step number 3. Create a safe environment to dialogue with your daughter. Ask leading questions, what I call diagnostic questions. And be specific with your questions. For example, why are you saying such things? Why are you choosing such words? In the example I gave you, words like lame, moron, you're the worst in your team. Why are you choosing such words? Step number 4. Clarify the consequences of such conduct. Now, you've got to be specific. Let me use the same illustration. If you say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm lame, like you said earlier tonight, you're going to lose your phone privileges for the next 7 days. That also applies when you tell your brother he's a moron, and that he's the worst one on his team, and that his favorite game is a boring soccer game. And not only him, but anyone else or any other rude word that you use. Step number 5. Set an evaluation time frame. Set an evaluation time frame. And my suggestion is this. Initially agree on 24-hour schedule. Say that if you have told her that 9 o'clock tonight, let her know you're going to review the same tomorrow 9 o'clock. And then you're going to review after 7 days. During that observation period, commend her, congratulate her, if you can even reward her if she did the right thing. If by any means during the observation period she threw one rude remark, ensure you implement the consequences you had told her to the letter. You see, the reason children don't take you seriously is because you don't take yourself seriously. Fire takes itself seriously. Fire has no emotions. So children learn not to touch fire because they realize it doesn't care whether you are 6 months old or 60 years old. Fire has absolute integrity. Fire burns all the time. So children learn, don't touch the fire. There's no time it's smiling. To burn you all the time. So you must be that predicted by a child. But of course, there's a bigger question today. At what point did you realize that your child has Asperger's syndrome or anomalous teenage behavior? Where were you all along? That's the real question. A study that was done by Dr. Bowden Blake and Dr. Jennifer Says on 527 teenagers admitted in Cincinnati Children's Hospital in Ohio. And they're trying to find out whether there were some lifestyles, family lifestyles, that may have contributed to the mental health these kids were suffering from. They found out that children whose parents ate 3 dinners a week or less are more likely to be involved in crime or drugs or depression, or even juvenile crime behaviors. Children who ate dinner with their parents consistently and boarded 5 times or more per week were less likely to suffer from behavioral problems, school problems, depression, or drugs. It's all about the parents' presence. What sacrifice are you making in the life of your child? This coming Tuesday, the 8th, we'll be voting in the morning. And in the evening at 10 o'clock, we'll be flying to the UK with Mercy, and we'll be flying with our own 2 children. They are not invited. I'm the only one invited to speak. What sacrifices do you make on behalf of your child? Yesterday, I would have preferred to be reading and revising my notes for what I'm sharing with you today, but regrettably, quote unquote, it was a prize giving day for my daughter, and I had a choice to make. And believe me, we were there at 8 a.m. and we left way past 2:30 in the afternoon. What sacrifices are you making on behalf of your child? I'll finish tonight by giving you the story of James. I was in high school and I wanted to go for dinner, James writes, when my mom said I'm not going to go out for dance with my own colleagues. I defied her. And I said, if you don't want to release me, well, that's bad enough for you. I'm going anyhow. I left the scene in a half, went to my bedroom. The next thing I remember, my mom gave a phone call to my dad who was out of town. And she simply said, I need you. My father cancelled a 4-year speaking engagement and drove home straight away. And what happened the next couple of weeks sent shivers down my toes. My father put our house on for sale immediately. And the next thing I knew, all my property, all our things were on the train, headed 700 kilometers south to Texas, Rio Grande Valley. In my last 2 years of high school, I had to make new friends. I went fishing and hunting with my father, forming a long-term bond between son and father. I got new associations, godly associations, and I began recovering the relationship that was fading away between my mom and I. Many years later, I realized the price my parents had to pay professionally and personally to rescue me. My father had to take a pastoral assignment in a smaller church, get a smaller salary for my sake. The James I'm talking about is the author of the classic bestsellers, Raising Up Boys, Raising Up Girls, Preparing for Adolescence, Dare to Discipline, Tough Love, When God Doesn't Make Sense, and many more. He is that Dr. James Dobson, the most respected and celebrated teacher and speaker on parenting the world over. If you are keen through my presentation, you must have heard me quote him earlier on. And the father may not have known the price and the investment he made to a very needy world by sacrificing on behalf of his son, James. What sacrifice are you willing to make on behalf of your children? This September, October, I had speaking engagements in the US. We missed many of them, and I asked most of them to reschedule to November when my kids will have closed school. So we'll be flying with them to the US on 6th of November. It's not a very good moment to be in the Northern Hemisphere. It was during the winter. But what sacrifices are you willing to make to be with your child? I do homework with them daily. You can imagine my pride as a father yesterday when my daughter was position 3 and leading in 3 subjects.